Simply put, Daredevil really impressed me with its first season. It's dark, it's gritty, and it's intense from the off. And Charlie Cox, who takes centre stage in the starring role, is a magnificent casting choice. A blind lawyer by day and a vigilante by night, Matt Murdock fights for justice as he intends to quell the rising chaos which is happening all around Hell's Kitchen. He's charismatic, charming, and effortlessly finds chemistry with all of his fellow co-stars. And the action and fight scenes are so well done, whether it's Matt going up against wave after wave of Russian thugs, fighting his former mentor Stick, or nearly losing his life to ninja warrior Nobu, you feel each hit that Matt takes. Even against overwhelming odds, he is able to use his boxer father's background in a raw fighting style where he will just not give up. He's not invincible. I can count plenty of times where it seemed like he was running out of gas or about to get overrun, for him to barely be able to pull through. But despite what he thinks, Matt can't do this alone. Surrounding our title character are his best friend and law partner, Foggy Nelson, whose quick wit and almost goofy personality at times allows him to strike up a brilliant chemistry with his fellow partner. And you get to see how deep their friendship goes, especially towards the closing episodes. Now, unlike Foggy, who was an integral part of Matt's world long before he donned his black mask, comes Deborah Ann Wall's Karen Page. Being quite literally dragged into the midst, the first time we see Karen, she is covered in blood. And thanks to Nelson and Murdoch, attorneys at law, they are able to get her off scot-free. And quite rightly at that. Her determination and perseverance are just a couple of aspects about her to be admired, as she seeks her own form of justice to bring all those who wronged her crashing down. Now, the premiere in particular does a really good job at kicking things straight into gear. We find out that a young Matt Murdock was in an accident when he was just a boy, which sadly resulted in him losing his eyesight. But on that fateful day, he didn't just lose his vision. No. In the present day, he has gained a whole new plethora of abilities. His extremely heightened senses, such as his hearing, give him a new sight, allowing him to see the world with things such as vibrations through the air, enabling him to view the world like no other. I wasn't sure if they would ever put us in Matt's shoes so that we could view the world the way he sees it, but thankfully they did. Albeit very brief, we were treated to one short scene where we entered his burning vision. And to be frank, the show probably benefits from that more that way. Showing us a little leaves us feeling satisfied without oversaturating it. Now, along with his heightened hearing comes one of his best perks. Listening to the speed of a heartbeat allows him to tell if you're telling the truth. Your heart speeds up, you're lying. Your heart stays the same, you're all good. A perk which he uses on a regular basis, helping him on each side of the world for both lawyer and vigilante.
Did you keep the file, Karen?
No.
Now, the first few episodes set a strong framework for what was to come. Matt wasn't the only one who wanted to help his city. We knew even when watching the first episode that there was someone orchestrating all of these events. A kingpin, as it were. But don't you dare speak his name. The build-up to his reveal was done very well indeed. His dominance and power over man was apparent even before his eventual reveal. It showed when Healy spilled the beans to Matt about who his employer was, but knowing at what he just did, he took his own life out of pure fear. The name? Wilson Fisk. The portrayal of Fisk balanced a level of social weakness and vulnerability against his obvious and more apparent cunning and physical strength. It was a bold move to keep him behind the curtain in the beginning of the series before his big reveal at the end of episode 3. And one that the writers pulled off brilliantly. Fisk isn't your typical crime boss. Sure, he has a massive influence over near enough anything that may hinder his work, such as the police and media outlets, but because of the fine balance he is walking between weakness and strength, we actually got a much deeper insight into the character. He formed a lethal attachment to art curator Vanessa, a character who on more than one occasion was able to see what Fisk was truly capable of, and the fact that she stuck around, fully knowing of some of the actions that her new man has done, leads me to believe that she could become a very dangerous force of her own in the future to come. There were no other villains that appeared for 1 or 2 episodes. Daredevil focused entirely on building up Fisk throughout the whole season, and the Russians or Japanese fit into Fisk's overall plan perfectly. So if we did end up spending a couple of episodes with one group not directly involving Fisk, like we did heavily early on with Vladimir and the Russians, know right now that that's just one cog turning in Fisk's very well-oiled machine. Now usually it was Wesley, Fisk's right-hand man, who was doing most of the upfront work, meeting directly with Leyland, Madame Gao, Nobu and Vladimir, and when doing so, he shared Fisk's command of a room, and distilled fear by just the mere mention of his employer's name. When going into a show like this, you know before watching that bodies are going to drop. Maybe not to the level of Game of Thrones, but let's face it, not many shows do in that regard. Whether it was officers of the law being gunned down by thugs, or Fisk decapitating a man by bashing his head in with a car door, this show certainly does not shy away from it. Off the top of my head I can note Wesley, Leyland, Mrs. Cardenas and most notably Ben Urich. That death for sure hurt the most, and it all started from the catalyst death of Wesley. Karen and Ben went looking for information on how to bring Fisk down, but came too close to getting a vital piece of information. Karen honestly thought they wouldn't get found out, and she badly miscalculated. Even so, the scene where Wesley questions her was done wonderfully. The phone call that distracted him ever so briefly allowed Karen that small window of opportunity that she needed. We learnt throughout the course of the season that Karen is able to do whatever it takes, and that she's not afraid to get her hands dirty. Wesley tried to maintain an air of calmness and control in that scene, but Karen called his bluff. It was such a powerful scene to see Karen go through with something that Matt has desperately been trying to avoid. Now we know that Foggy found out about Matt's identity when he found him back at his apartment half dead, but what about Karen? She's far from stupid, and yeah, she doesn't know 100% who the man underneath the mask truly is, but I think she's beginning to get a good grasp. Whether or not she finds out in season 2, well, we'll just have to wait and see. And staying on the topic of Karen, I'm sort of glad in a way that she didn't hook up with either Matt or Foggy. The idea was flirted on more than one occasion, but having her own arc with Ben and looking into Union Allied underline the fact that she can more than hold her own when it comes to having her own story. Now if I had one gripe, it would be that we didn't see enough of Rosario Dawson's Claire Temple. She was introduced very early on and had a prominent role alongside Matt in the next few episodes, but then she sort of vanished until very late on in the season. Sure, she was mentioned once or twice in reference, but I really didn't see her sudden disappearance coming, especially having played a big role so far. Regardless, what we did get from Claire was all quality. Originally finding Matt dying in a dumpster, she saved his life and helped nurse him back to health on more than one occasion. Her immediate knowledge of seeing his face meant Matt could explore more with her than he could with anyone else. Him being open and honest with her and explaining why he does this was a great way to have those two characters connect on a deeper level. Now, there were notable standout episodes that certainly deserve a special mention. Episodes 2, 6 and 13 were all fantastic, but episode 9 was the best of the bunch. Starting off with Matt wounded and struggling against Nobu, the episode steadily paced itself, culminating to how the two of them engaged in battle. And if you thought that battle was the end of it, oh, you were in for a treat. It was easily one of the most tense endings in the whole season. Matt had been on the edge of death before, but nothing like this. After barely defeating Nobu, Fisk emerged from the shadows and laid a brutal and vicious beatdown to an already exhausted Matt. And just as Wesley was tasked with finishing the job, Matt had just about enough wherewithal about him to fling himself out of the window and into the sea, to barely save his life. The show deserves huge credit in the way it approaches its action scenes. I mentioned earlier you can really feel the punches that Matt gives and takes, and one of the main proofs of that is the ending of episode 2. That hall scene where he went from door to door and going through wave after wave of goons was one of the best in the entire season. You could see that they nearly had him on more than one occasion. The guy isn't invincible, and it just adds to the effect that makes Matt seem like a much more believable hero in the harsh world that he lives in. Bad things happen to good people, especially in Hell's Kitchen, and Matt is aiming to crush that notion. My overall verdict for the first season of Daredevil is a 9 out of 10. Easily one of the best new shows in 2015, Daredevil provides a new and darker look into the Marvel Universe. A believable main character helped by a strong supporting cast and focus towards one main villain in Wilson Fisk helped focus the show and elevate it to a new level. The action scenes are stellar, the acting, especially from Charlie Cox, is superb, and each episode, whether it strayed into a new story arc, ended up weaving itself wonderfully back together, giving out the vibe and feel of a full story and it all being connected. Now, with Fisk being locked up in the final moments, does that mean he won't be returning for season 2, or that his character is gone forever? I think not. Whether next year we visit him briefly or not, I believe Fisk will return at some point. I doubt it will be season 2, but somewhere along the line, you know he is going to make his escape, and Vanessa could have a big role to play in that happening. And hell, with Matt finally getting a costume upgrade in the season finale, maybe he might not be on his deathbed for a large portion of the next season. But I wouldn't count on it. Season 2 is coming in the early part of 2016, and I already cannot wait to jump back into the world of Hell's Kitchen. Now, I'm sure plenty of you out there already know of Marvel's plans to expand this particular universe. Shows like Jessica Jones are set to come out pretty soon. Elektra is coming in Daredevil season 2 as well. But one character for me that really does deserve something bigger and is also turning up next season, and that man is Frank Castle, the Punisher. I am a huge Punisher fan, so knowing that he is debuting in season 2 has me absolutely stoked. I can't wait, honestly. I really hope Netflix and Marvel see the potential for the character in his own TV series. It's something that I've been hoping for years, and this, quite frankly, is probably going to be the best chance of us getting that. And it has to be rated accordingly. Death and killing is part of the Punisher character, and it's something that if a series is made from it, cannot shy away from. Frank Castle is nothing like Matt Murdock, so having these two characters collide is definitely going to be interesting. Is the Punisher's brutal and vengeful way of striking down his enemies going to lead into a head-on collision with Daredevil, or will someone come along and need both of them to team together? At the moment, it's anyone's guess. To conclude, if you've not watched Daredevil yet or are undecided whether or not to jump into this universe, I advise you to give it a shot. The show does very well to iron down its intentions from the early going, so those who are not tuned up in the depth of the Marvel Universe need not shy away. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you on the next one.